Can I join others in congratulating our young people and the staff and their work? I'm sure everybody across this chamber will actually join in with that. Congratulations. Minister, you've answered an awful lot of the questions and points I wanted to raise, because you clearly are passionate about this and you can see that passion coming through. And I do agree with you, the early years is key to the reading and the joy of reading, because I was interested to read, and Sian Gwyntlyn was quite right, read the analysis of the text, not just the headline figures, is important. 91% online chats is where they get a lot of their reading from. When they say that 44% rarely or never read a book, we need to look at how we address that, whilst encouraging young people to use technology for their research and the development. And I couldn't understand how the understanding element of reading, or comprehension, as Susie put it, was below the line, and yet our reflection and evaluation was above the line, which is clearly an important, a critical point. But we also want to remind ourselves the positive message here. Actually, we've improved 9 places in science across in the national figures. We've improved 8 places in reading, and we've improved 7 places in maths. So we've actually, against other countries, we have definitely improved ourselves and gone up the line. And we should not ignore that point. It's not just about improving those individual figures. We've gone up against other nations as well. And that's critical. And I also noticed the attainment gap has decreased as well, though I do recognise the 10th percentile and the 90th percentile aren't necessarily at the levels we want them to be able to have that gap smaller, but giving us better averages, and we need to do something on that. Can I ask the question out clearly on how we address this? Because some of the things I think is vocational education is an important aspect when we hit some of these levels, because I think vocational education can be also a need to help in some of those pupils understand some of the points we're talking about. It's not just purely the academic agenda, it's the vocational agenda as well, which we can feed together into approval. So how will you look at how the vocational agenda and the academic agenda in your curriculum will work to ensure we can improve those levels of both the bottom 10% and the top 10%, which gives us that better figure in that. How do we ensure we raise the expectation of possibilities? You talk about reaching the potential, but we want to raise the expectation and opportunities and possibilities for those people to reach that potential. And so what are you doing to work with that, so we give them more hope? Sian Gwyntlyn talked about teachers. Again, I also raised the question of teachers. How do we encourage more in? But also, how, because we weren't reflected in that about the absent teachers, but we do have a lot of supply teachers coming in. And how do we address the supply teacher agenda to ensure that that doesn't impact upon the learning of our young people, so they can still continue the development? There are many schools where supply teachers come and go quite frequently, and that does impact upon them. You talked about the food banks and the well-being, but let's not forget the well-being affects the learning of children, and that's crucial. We need to address that. And I noticed the OECD reflected Andreas Schleifer in his comments. You're on the right path. That's what he said. You're on the right path. Stick to it. But can you convince us that the curriculum changes you are going to be bringing in next year will actually take us continually on that path? It's not going to divert us off the path into another route, another direction. Because it is important that we continue the progression we have seen in the last 3 years. We've all called for this progression. From 2015, I remember it. We all called for this progression. We've got it now. Let's celebrate it, but let's also make sure that we continue with it, because that is the aim for our young people, to ensure that they're able to benefit from improving our systems.
I thank David for his commendation of our teachers and students, and for his question. The aim of the new curriculum is to be a much broader-based curriculum that will address both the knowledge that our children will need, but also to give them the skills and experiences. And that does mean that potentially there is more scope within that curriculum for a more vocational focus. But you'll also be aware that the Qualifications Wales is carrying out a consultation at the moment with regards to the qualifications. And there is some suggestion of a narrowing down of the literally thousands of qualifications children can do. But that really will be the guide as to the qualifications that will be available after the time at school. But this more broad-based curriculum and the ability of teachers to be able to design a curriculum that meets the needs of the children in front of them and the needs of local employers and the local economy, I believe that greater freedom will be able to address that crucial thing of engagement. I was at a school recently being interviewed by students, and they asked me to name something that I studied at school that I had never, ever, ever used again in my entire professional career. And I suspect we can all think of those kinds of things. And they gave me a long list of things that they felt that they had learnt in school that they weren't convinced was ever, ever going to be of use to them. And we've got to listen and give the opportunity for children to be able to have a say in actually what do I need, and to give relevance to the learning. So even if it's something that surds in maths comes up a lot, so even though you might not understand why you're having to learn surds in maths, but we give relevance to the learning of saying, okay, maybe you don't like this, but you need to learn this because, and to show them the linkages to their future life skills, to their future careers, and that's how we really engage all of our learners. And raising aspiration is an important part of that, and explaining to children that what they see around them isn't necessarily the limit of their ambitions, and they can think beyond that. And our SERIN programme is the epitome of raising aspirations of our children, to say you are good enough, you can compete with the very best. There is a place for you, you know, at these universities, at these high tariff courses, and that's one of the reasons why we want to bring SERIN down the school age, to be able to address those issues of aspiration earlier. Teachers, of course, are crucial. No education system can exceed the quality of the teachers who work with our children day in, day out. That's why we've reformed our initial teacher education programme. That's why we are actively considering moving to a 2-year NQT phase, so there's greater support and mentoring for those first entering the profession. That's why we need to look once again at a master's programme, but not telling teachers in their first year of teaching they've got to do a master's then because they've got enough to contend with, but actually creating that gap for teachers to study at a master's level. We'll also to continue the initial investment that we have started off in professional learning, and make sure that I can secure those resources so that professional learning can be ongoing. Now, the head of the education department in the OECD indeed has had an interesting take on the Welsh education journey. He does believe that the reform programme that we're engaged in is the best chance of achieving a great education system, and he is very supportive of the curriculum and the curriculum changes. But what is crucial to me, it's all very well having the national mission written down on a piece of paper. In January, we will have our finished curriculum written down on pieces of paper. Our attention then has to turn to the serious business of implementation. I have been in this chamber long enough to see very worthwhile plans formulated on paper and then fail in their implementation phase. And I am determined to learn the lessons of that and not to repeat that on my watch.
Thank you. Finally, Neil Hamilton.